Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your host, 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is music. More specifically, the first time that you've heard a particular artist. Now, we're doing a theme now. At the time of this recording, it is the month of June. As many of you know, or maybe you don't know, June is Black Music Month. And so every episode, with the exception of Father's Day, every episode that we drop this month, it's going to be about music or albums or particular artists or album reviews, the whole nine, right? So what I wanted to do was to talk a little bit about the first time that you heard a particular artist. And it's kind of a funny way of how I came to this. Um, Several months ago, I was riding around in the car, just doing what I do, right? And Nas came on, and a song from his most recent album, King's Disease 3. It's called The First Time. And in the song, Nas actually talks about the first time that we as fans probably heard Nas. I remember where I was the first time that I heard Nas. I remember the first song that I heard from Nas. It was Live at the Barbecue. And he had a line in there that just kind of blew me away. He said, when I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. I was like, yo, who is this guy? And then obviously his debut album comes out, Illmatic. Um, I'm in college at South Carolina State University, and it blew me away because I'm not that much older than Nas, right? Anyway, long story short, listening to that song had me thinking like, you know, the first time that I heard Nas. And then later on in the song, Nas talks about, you know, where he was or what he was doing when he heard some of his favorite artists, right? So I was like, that's kind of dope. And what it made me think about was to go to social media, right? So after hearing that and getting that thought about doing a podcast, because here's the thing, I started thinking about, some of the artists that I heard for the first time, and it would have been easy for me to jot down a list of 20 of my favorite artists or whatever like that. But instead, I decided to do something a little different. I decided to go to social media, right? I went to Twitter and I just put out a tweet to my followers. I said, hey, give me the name of 5 rappers that you think I listen to and 5 singers that you think I listen to. And that's all I said. I didn't say anything else, right? The reason being was that I wanted them, based on their responses, to basically help me create this particular episode of this podcast. And this was like, gosh, it must have been about 4 or 5 months ago now. I don't ask why I'm just now getting around to doing it. But so I sent the tweet out and I waited on the responses, and I got several responses. And the only response that I had for my followers who responded to my tweet was that I'm going to use this on an upcoming episode. And everybody's like, all right, bet. So what I did was that particular day, I screenshot each tweet that came in. And I took the screenshots and put them in my notes folder in my phone. And I told myself that I wasn't going to look at those screenshots until I press record on the particular episode. So I haven't looked at any of the tweets. So I'm going to give you 5 artists, 5 rappers, and 5 singers. Well, a total of 10 artists. 10 artists, 5 rappers, 5 singers, based on the responses that I got on Twitter. And first up, and what I did was I went by whoever tweeted me first. So the first person to respond to my tweet was my homegirl, Maya, from the We Did That Shit podcast. Man, listen, I gotta first of all, shout out to Maya and Babi. I gotta get them back on because it's been way too long. But nonetheless, Maya responded with 5 rappers and 5 singers, and they're in no particular order. So I'm going to give you the first time that I heard these artists. First up, Prince Rogers Nelson. Man, listen, I go way back with Prince. Prince, as many of you probably know, at least you should know, if you know me, um, Prince is one of my all-time favorite artists of any genre. Um, and so I've been a fan like forever. Um, but the first time that I heard Prince, I want to say it was the Prince album. I think that's the name of the album. I was little. I mean, like I was really little. This is when I really started getting into music. Um, and the song that I remember for the first time that I heard was a song called "I Want to Be Your Lover," and that quickly became one of my favorite songs at the time. Uh, and I just remember just listening to it because it was the one song that I can remember from Prince that was constantly played on the radio, and that was before 1999 and Little Red Corvette, and and of course I love the song now because the song starts off with my favorite saying. The song starts off with saying, "I ain't got no money." Now you know that I mean I live by that motto, but you know if you were unlike King Germ or Eclectic or Uncle Dolomite, those guys they got all the money. So I don't have no money, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, um, yeah. So that was that's my guy, and that's the first time that I heard the first time I heard Prince. It was "I Want to Be Your Lover." Um, Next artist, singer, uh, Maya wrote Bobby Brown. Whew. And she put in quotation marks a solo album. Because obviously I heard Bobby Brown when he was a member of New Edition early in the early 80s. My first memory of Bobby Brown, the solo artist, I want to say it was from the Girlfriend album. And I think the song that I remember, at least I can't remember which one I heard first, but I think it was Girlfriend. Yeah, Girlfriend. That was my joint, man. Again, that was something else that got a lot of radio play on the Quiet Storm back in the day in my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. Um, so yeah, Bobby Brown, that's my solo. First time I heard Bobby Brown solo was the Girlfriend album. And the song was entitled Girlfriend. Um, Next artist, Erykah Badu. Listen, I love Erykah Badu. Man, I love Erykah Badu. Um, I go back with Erykah Badu. Um, the first time that I heard Erykah Badu was on her first album, and I want to say it was I can't. I think I heard I think I saw the video first before I heard the song on the radio or anything like that. Because I remember it. I remember actually buying the CD. Um, but the first time that I heard Erykah Badu was on a song called "On and On." And listen, I was hooked, man. Erykah Badu. I don't know, man. It was just something about her voice that just kind of pulls you in, and then when you see her, she's a beautiful woman, but um, yeah, man, her voice had me. She had me hooked, and I remember when I bought the album, her first album. I played it forever. Like I had the CD, and I remember just playing that CD so much. I played until it got scratched. Like it was, I played that CD forever. And I mean that album, both of her first two albums, crazy. Got a podcast coming up on that as well. But yeah, first time that I heard Erykah Badu was "On and On." That's my joint. Um, Next singer, Mary Jane Blige. Whew. Oh man. The first time that I heard Mary J, she was actually singing background, so I'm not gonna count that. She was singing background on um It was Father MC, the Father MC joint. Um, I'll do for you. That was the song. I'll do for you. And I think she, if I'm not mistaken, she was in a video too. She had like kind of like a blonde hair with a ponytail, singing background. But my first my first time hearing Mary J. Got to go back to her debut album. What's the 411? Um, I want to say it was Real Love because I think I heard Real Love before I heard the album. But definitely Real Love. Psh, that joint still bangs. Um, yeah, man, just great memories. Great, and I love Mary J. Blige. Um, so that's what is that four singers? Yeah, that's four. I said Bobby, said Mary, Prince, Badu, um, and then the fifth singing artist that she put on the tweet was New Edition. Um, I go way back with New Edition, like the beginning of New Edition. It was 1982, 83, something like that. The first song that I heard was Candy Girl. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. And I've said this before. I'm not sure if I said it on this podcast or not, but I didn't like New Edition. Well, let me take that back. I can't say that I didn't like New Edition. I didn't like the fact that New Edition had the girls. All the girls in my class loved New Edition, and I didn't like that. I was a hater. I was a hater, man. I mean, like, it bothered me to see them getting props. And I mean, like, we didn't have the internet. You know, all you had was TV and radio. And there was a video for Candy Girl. And I remember, you know, New Edition being on the radio, and I remember New Edition being on TV a couple of times. And I remember girls in my classroom talking about how, you know, how cute they were. And I was just like, and then of course, you know, as they got bigger, you know, they were in magazines on covers and stuff like that, Right On magazines, stuff like that. And yeah, I'd probably say like that first album, I ain't like New Edition. I ain't like them at all. So Candy Girl, Popcorn Love, I ain't like. I it's weird. I like the songs, but I didn't like them. I ain't like the props they was getting from the girls, man. I wanted the girls to like me. I ain't want them to like Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. None of them. So, you know, hating at a young age, I guess. So that's the singers that Maya listed. Now let's go to the MCs. First up, and again in no particular order, MC Lyte. That's a good pick, Maya. MC Lyte, I definitely heard her for the first time. I remember the year. It was on her debut album because her debut album came out in the greatest year in hip hop, 1988, right? She had a joint called Paper Thin. Man, listen, that joint right there, man. And then when I saw the video, she had her hair like in a little bob. Man, listen, all the girl when Lyte came out with that video, all the girls in my school wanted to rock their hair like that. Everybody couldn't because everybody had that kind of hair, but nonetheless, it was dope, man. And I was a fan instantly because, you know, MC Lyte at the time, she was one of the dopest female rappers and still is, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time. And you know, chicks wanted to be like her, and dudes wanted to get with her. I mean, so it was, but she came off like, you know, a tomboy, but like she would bust your ass with them rhymes. And, you know, I personally, for me, that was dope. So I really kind of took to that. So yeah, my MC Lyte was the first. Well, Maya wrote down MC Lyte, but that was the first time I heard MC Lyte, Paper Thin, off her debut album, Light as a Rock. Next up, ladies love Cool James. Man, I go way back with LL. First time I heard LL, really, if I'm being honest, the first time I heard him was in Krush Groove. In his brief cameo appearance in Krush Groove, the movie. But yeah, man, LL's my dude, man. My boy Eclectic likes to call LL the greatest of all time. He's not the greatest of all time, but he's up there. Not the GOAT. First time I heard LL, it was on the first album. His first album, Radio. What was the first song? Um, I would probably say the first time and the first song that I heard from LL was Rock the Bells. I mean, come on, man. That's a classic. That's a classic hip hop song right there. You can't go wrong with Rock the Bells. Um, yeah, man, great memories. Great memories. Um, the next set of rappers, Maya wrote down A Tribe Called Quest. Maya knows me well. I am a huge fan of A Tribe Called Quest. Um, man, Quest, A Tribe Called Quest, those guys actually, for some reason, I felt like I grew up with them. Like I just like we just literally like we were cousins or something. And I always say, rest in peace to Fife. Like when Fife passed away, that was one of the few times where a celebrity passes away and it really affected me like more. I mean, like almost like somebody that I was close to had passed away, like a relative or something. Um, but yeah, A Tribe Called Quest. First time I heard them, it was a song off their first album, their debut album. And the song was, I want to say the first time that I heard them was Can I Kick It? I mean, can I kick it? What's the response? Yes, you can. Um, yeah, man, that joint, I still to this day, and it's always a good feeling to hear those songs because like it just brings back memories of me being in the hallway at school and walking around with my headphones on, or after school, at the crib, doing homework, listening to music. But that's what that brings back to me. Um, Next up, this is artist number 4, rapper number 4, um, Biggie. Wow. First time I heard Biggie. I know the first time I heard Biggie. It wasn't his album. It wasn't his. It wasn't even his song. The first time that I heard Biggie was on a song called "Dolly My Baby" by Supercat. So as the story goes, one of my teammates, my boy Bruce, he had the cassette single, right? And he was like, "Yo, dog, check this out." And he gave me the tape. So I put the tape in and I listened to it and I heard, and I don't know none of these rappers who were rapping. Puff rapped on it. I knew who Supercat was, right? And there was something distinctive about the guy who rapped last. And he started off his verse with, "I love it when you call me Big Papa." And I was like, okay, this dude is different. And I just kept rewinding the tape and listening and listening and listening. And I kept going back to the guy who rapped last. Now, on the cassette single, it doesn't say who it is. So I didn't know who he was. I know what he looked like because there was a video subsequently that came out after that. But initially, I think probably the first month or so that I had been listening to it, I didn't know who that guy was. And then, somebody said it was Biggie Smalls, whatever. But long story short, so Bruce gives me the tape, and we were going to a game against I think we were playing Newberry College that weekend, and we were going to Newberry, and I told him I'd give it back to him when we got back to the dorm. Well, we got back to the dorm, and I never gave him back his tape. So I saw him at practice a couple of days later, and Bruce was like, "Yo, man, you got my tape?" I was like, "Yo, yeah, it's in the dorm." I was lying; it was in my locker. And then so he came by the dorm. He's like, "Man," he's like, "Man, you got my tape?" I was like, "Oh man, it's in the locker room." And I lied to him. I lied, man. Me and Bruce are still we're friends. We're boys. This is my boy. I lied to him for like 2 months, and I couldn't part ways with that tape. And it was only the single, but I used to play it every day, man. Biggie, he had me hooked. He had me hooked from that one verse, and been a fan ever since. Been a fan ever since. Um, and last but not least, Maya wrote down Outkast. Wow. Outkast, huge fan. Maya knows me well. Um, Huge fan of Outkast. First time I heard Cast was Players Ball. I don't even think the album hadn't even come out yet. Players Ball was on like a mixtape or something that I heard in college, and I heard it. Their album actually came out right before Freaknik, and but Players Ball, I mean, like it blew up. It was on. I want to say it was on LaFace's Christmas album or something like that, and yeah, it just blew up on my campus because like one, these dudes were from the South. They could rap their ass off. They look like us. They dress like us. They walk like us. They talk like us. And I just became a fan. I wasn't even living in Atlanta at the time. I was still in college. And Outkast just represented, man, like unlike any other. And me and my friends, we took a strong liking to him, and the rest they say is history. But yeah, it's funny. And again, I got to thank Maya for providing these 10 artists. And program note: if you look at the cover of this cover art of this, you see a kid with headphones on. That's not me. I'm sure you probably saw it and thought it was me, but no, that's not me. That is my youngest son, Brandon, who looks a little like me, just a little. But yeah, I took that picture when he was like 5 or 6. We were in Best Buy one day, and I thought after deciding this topic, I was like, that'd be a great dope cover art. So yeah, I wanted to use that for this, but gotta thank Maya and everybody else who sent in their tweets. I tell you what, I've got enough tweets to make a couple of more podcasts. So this won't be the first episode. I mean, this won't be the last episode where I talk about the first time that I heard a particular artist. But it's been a really dope trip down memory lane, to be honest. Because it's one thing when you have these artists that you grew up with, and it's another thing when you're able to tap into your memory bank and remember when you first started listening to them. And ultimately, you remember how much they mean to you. And if they're still a favorite of yours, you get that feeling each and every time you push play. And, that'll always be a great feeling. And that'll always be something that, even for those like Phife and Biggie who have passed away, when they die, you just press play and bring them back to life. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. Be sure to subscribe. Podcasts on all streaming platforms. Videos available on YouTube under the YouTube channel for 12 Kyle podcast. If you feel so inclined, shoot me $1 or $2. Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5Gs.